Welcome back to Flying Upstream, the show where we explore the lives of people who defy expectations and carve out paths that are truly their own. If you've ever felt the pressure to do life the right way, school, job, house, repeat, you're in the right place. Today's guest is Bianca Lynch, a woman who stepped out of the American system completely. After dropping out of her US life, Bianca has spent the past year traveling through 10 countries, and she's just getting started. Her mission? To help other restless souls ditch the rat race and create slower, more meaningful life abroad. Whether you're dreaming of becoming a digital nomad or just feeling stuck in your current environment, this episode will challenge your assumptions and show you what it really means to live with freedom. Please help me welcome Bianca.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. So excited to have you here, Bianca. So let's go back to the beginning. What was your life like before you made the decision to leave the US?
This question is always so triggering for me in a good way because honestly, there's such a stark difference. The way that I would describe my life before is very much autopilot and monotonous. So I tell people all the time, it's not like I had a horrible life beforehand. It just was a life where I felt like there has to be more. It always felt like something was missing. I felt like I did all the things that I was supposed to do, and yet I wasn't feeling fulfilled. I kept feeling like, is this really it? And I kept feeling like there was just nothing new. Like I was doing the same things all the time. It just becomes so predictable. So overall it really just felt like an autopilot life. Like it felt like I didn't really have like I had great friends, family, I'm healthy, like I have all these things that I'm grateful for, but it just sort of made me question, isn't life supposed to be somewhat a little bit like isn't life supposed to be somewhat exciting? Like isn't life supposed to be more exciting than this? Aren't I supposed to be like looking forward to waking up and having a new day? But it's hard to feel that way when it feels like tomorrow is just going to be like today.
Oh, yes. And I think that resonates with certainly myself, and I'm sure many of our listeners too, where you get into that routine and the small things become sort of interesting. Like, ooh, my favorite coffee shop has a new flavor. But
Yeah.
like, that's not enough to really excite the soul at a deeper level. And I think
Mm,
so much of that is about not just exciting new things, but aligning your core values inside of who you really are and what you really want with your environment and your day to day. And that can be such a challenge when we're just stuck and you need someone to kind of reach that hand in and pull you out, whatever that moment may be. But sometimes you just need that thought to snap you into a different path in life. Do you feel like you had a specific moment or a breaking point that made you realize, I have to get out of here?
you know, I laugh whenever I tell this story because I know it's something that a lot of people can relate to, and I feel like it's a funny wake up moment. But I can remember this is back when I was still very, very immersed in the corporate America life, and I had the big girl job. I was making six figures from the outside looking in. I had it all, right? And I remember that I woke up one morning, it was like a Tuesday, and I looked at my calendar and then I went, oh, I only have 4 calls today. And then I was like, Bianca, what? You only have 4 calls and you're happy about that. And I remember looking at the calls that I had, and like 3 out of 4 of them were completely unnecessary. Anyone who's been in corporate, I know you can relate. I know you know the meetings that should have been an email. You know the meetings that you didn't even belong on the invite. You're pretty much on mute the entire time. Or whenever someone asks you a question, you're just like, why am I here? And I just remember being like, I am spending 40, 50 hours a week here. And I'm spending this time doing things that don't even matter to me. I don't really feel like I'm impacting anyone, which is really what I want. And it's just like, this is my time. Like, time is my most valuable asset, and I'm spending my time being excited about only having 4 hours out of the waking hours in a day. 4 hours. Like, that was good news. That honestly was a huge wake up call for me.
Yes, I can imagine that. Yeah, and I agree. Exactly what you said. There's so much meaningless work and moments when you're in that typical corporate job where you're like, I don't need to be in this meeting. I didn't need to be copied on this email. And then it's like, what am I doing? Like, why am I even here?
Mm,
And I know I struggled with this personally. I didn't even agree with what my company was even doing, right? I worked for several companies that were all about AI and technology and being on the cutting edge. And I was like, great. So you're automating like someone's, financial statement. Like, okay, this
yeah.
isn't really all that meaningful in the grand scheme of life. It's not something that I was particularly passionate about. Um, and so for me, what I did was I tried to find a new job. And I think a lot of people would try to improve their lives by tweaking some smaller things, like a new job, a new hobby. But you changed everything. Why?
The reason that I decided to go and do the very dramatic thing of leaving the country is because, honestly, Kristen, I'd already tried changing all of these other small things. I spent years trying to make these small changes in my life. And I won't say that some of these changes weren't helpful, and I won't say that some of them didn't change my life, but it was very hard to stick to them because I kept getting sucked back into the rat race. I kept getting sucked back into consumerism and the same mindset that a lot of people have in the United States. Like, it became like an additional job to try to stand out, like to try to be different when my entire environment was like, nope, this is it. This is what you need. Nope, this is the American dream. Like, it just became to a point where I was like, or it just came to a point where I was like, I can just leave. Like, I can literally just completely change my environment. And then this doesn't have to be a part-time job anymore. These things that I'm trying to do while also having all of my surroundings constantly tell me like, no, this is the right way. This is a part-time job I get to quit. Like this is an option for me. And which I think is so powerful because there are so many people who don't actually realize it is an option.
That's fair. That's fair. I agree. Not many people would think I'm going to leave the United States altogether. And it's a huge leap. It's a huge leap.
Yeah.
What was the first step you took toward that lifestyle and essentially becoming a digital nomad?
Yeah. So the first step that I took was actually, I call it a test drive. And living abroad is a very controversial, sexy topic, trendy topic right now on social media, which is fair. Living abroad is incredible, but I am one of those people who believe that if you have never traveled or if you are not somewhat well traveled, you want to get that experience first before you uproot your entire life. And luckily, there's actually so many ways, there's so many options for doing that. And one of the ways that I did that is I actually traveled with a company. It's called Remote Year. It's unfortunately, they actually went under last year, so they're no longer operating. But I traveled with them in 2019. So I went to 4 different countries in 4 months. It was Chile, Peru, Colombia, and Mexico. And to this day, Kristen, the most life-changing thing I have ever done. So essentially, that was my first time getting a taste of what it was really like to live abroad. Not just go on vacation, not just go to an all-inclusive resort, not just go and stay at a hotel where everyone there speaks English and they're coming in and they're changing my sheets every day,
Right.
but actually cooking and doing laundry and navigating going to the grocery store and not knowing the language. Like, it was the first time that I was really immersed in the living abroad lifestyle. And once I saw that, I mean, I couldn't unsee it. I couldn't unlearn it. Like, those experiences, they shook me. Like, they shook everything that I thought I knew about life.
That's incredible. I have to acknowledge the level of courage it took to do this too. that you are literally leaving everything you know, your whole life, you're leaving it behind. And as you said, this is not a vacation. You're not gone for 1 week and you're coming back home. You know, you're doing everything, all the day-to-day stuff. You're doing your own laundry, grocery shopping in countries where you may not speak the language and may not really know the culture of what to do, how to get around. Is it cab, public transportation? Do you walk everywhere? All of these things that we take for granted when we live in the US. Like we know what our cultural norms are here, and to just drop yourself into a place where you know nothing is so bold. And I really appreciate the fact that you just kind of went for it, right? That you're
Yeah.
just like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And didn't let all these fears and these other blockers stand in your way of doing that. Now, one thing I am curious about though is money. How did you fund your travel at the beginning? Because it can be expensive, right? Especially if you want to see all the sights, do the things, go on excursions. And how are you supporting yourself?
Yeah, no, that's a solid question. And it's a question that I get all the time. So, whenever I did the travel program back in 2019, I'd actually just started a fully remote job. And as far as the travels that I'm doing now, I work for myself and I have multiple online businesses. I have multiple streams of income. I have talked about this transparently on my social media channels at She's Booking the Flight for anyone who's interested, because it's honestly the number one question that I get. Even though my niche is travel, being a digital nomad, people are always like, how are you making money? How is it that I can do this? How am I going to make money if I am abroad? And I really try to encourage people to expand your mindset. There's so much around travel, living abroad, whether you're taking a trip or whether you are doing slow travel or whether you are deciding to go and live abroad. Y'all, it's 2025. We have to stop thinking that money only comes from a job. Like we have to stop thinking that money only comes from you clocking in, sitting in your one spot for 8 hours and then leaving. So I have speaking of courage, like I tell people all the time, like even whenever it comes to making money online, that takes courage. It takes the courage to be willing to fail. It takes the courage to be cringy, the courage to just be willing to get out of your comfort zone and figure it out. I have failed at way, way more things making money online than I have succeeded at. So it has not been a perfect journey by any means, but you got to be willing to throw spaghetti at the wall and figure out what works for you. And for me, I ended up kind of like falling into travel. Like I never really expected to have a travel brand. But then I was like, you know what? I like travel. I'm just going to start this page for fun. And lo and behold, the people just started flocking to me and they were like, how are you doing this? Oh my goodness, I want to go to this country. Then when I started talking about moving abroad, I just couldn't believe the amount of people who want to live abroad, like in the United States. Like I was stunned at like how much my content started picking up when I was talking about that. So I essentially turned it into a business. And so now I create educational content helping other people learn how to travel on a budget, learn how to move abroad, learn how to make money online. So primarily I do digital marketing and affiliate marketing, but I do have like some other income streams that I do on the side as well.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And I agree with you. It is 2025, people. Like, yeah, you do not need to make your whole income just by sitting at a desk all day.
Yeah.
And in fact, like it's not even is it um not a requirement anymore, but it's not even a great idea because if your company goes under, your company changes, you're not you're putting all your eggs in one basket, and that can be really dangerous these days. So
Mm,
and when you're an employee, you have no control over those
yeah.
decisions unless you're at the top. Maybe you do, but
Yeah.
you really have no control over your own destiny. And to me, that's really scary. That's a
Yeah.
huge reason why Luis and I came together and wanted to start this podcast is to get that message out that you really
Yeah.
can take control of your life. You can follow your passion and you can make money from it. And it's such a critical component in our world today because it has changed so much. So,
Mm, it's
yeah.
changed so much, Kristen, honestly. And the amount of people who are out here even working multiple jobs. I don't know if this is still trendy, but I remember there was like this was like 2, 3 years ago where the thing was like everybody needs to have 3 or 4 remote jobs. And I'm not gonna lie to you, Kristen, I drank the Kool-Aid a little bit. I did. Like there was a point in time where I was like, oh yeah, that's so smart. But then I was like, why on earth would you want to work 4 jobs?
Right.
Like, do you actually want to live your life? Like it's yeah, it's there's so much around that. And it's so ironic because people love to cling to this fake job security, but just like you said, you never know. There are people out here being let go from jobs that they have been at for decades. It's I mean, the stories I've heard, like it's the days of depending on a job for all of your money are long, long gone.
It's true. It's true. I'm curious to know what surprised you most about life abroad, especially in your first few countries, because we're talking about how things have changed from having one job your whole life to now multiple jobs or even just multiple streams of income, be it passive income or whatnot. How did things look different in those other countries for you, and what surprised you?
I think the number one thing that surprised me was the culture shock of getting out of the hustle mentality, getting out of the rat race, the matrix for some of you who, you're picking up what I'm putting down here. And like it was just like going to another country and just seeing people have these slow mornings. Like being out walking and seeing these people just like sitting in the park. They're not in a hurry. They're not rushing. Like everyone's not rushing. Like just that alone to me was such a culture shock. And believe it or not, in a lot of places, that is actually one of the reasons why people from the United States have a poor reputation is they go to these countries and it's always like moving, like trying to, just always trying to get wherever. So that's definitely been one of the biggest things is just you hear these words like live a slower life, live a slower lifestyle. I want to live a slower life. And it sounds great. But when you actually witness it, you're like, oh, this is this is so different. Like I don't even use an alarm clock anymore. Like I didn't realize that I never thought about a life where I wouldn't have an alarm clock. Like y'all, I'm very type A. Okay. I'm type A. I am Capricorn moon. Structure, organization, like that has been me for my entire life. So just the culture shock of seeing these people who are prioritizing family, these people who are prioritizing peace and joy in these small things, not in the stuff. And that's probably the second biggest thing is thinking about consumerism culture in the United States. And I promise you, Kristen, there is no way on earth I could have witnessed this. There's no way I could have seen this if I did not leave. Because even when I'm here now, like even like when I visit the US, this is just me being very transparent. It is hard. Like I want everything. I'm air quoting for anyone who's listening to the audio. I need all the stuff. Like I'm not proud of how much of my money that Amazon gets. And then I'm abroad for months at a time with no Amazon orders. And I'm like, look at that, Bianca. Wow. Remember like all those things that you thought you needed delivered to your doorstep between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. with your Amazon Prime? It's like
Yep.
you just realizing that my husband and I were happier living in 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms apartments than we were in our 3-story townhome whenever we were living here.
Mm. So tell me more about what a slower life actually looks like for you. Paint me that picture.
Oh man, yeah. I'll give you like a recent day in the life of where I was at most recently, which is in Merida, Mexico. So first of all, literally waking up to the sound of the birds chirping. Like that literally my alarm. Like and this is it sounds so like but I'm telling you, it is the truth. Like waking up when my body wakes up. The sun is rising and I'm a morning person. Let me put that out there because someone who's listening might be a night owl. They might be like, mm-mm. But for me, like I'm a morning person. So for me, it's like just starting off by having just the elements wake me up and then just easing into the day, not rushing to my phone, not rushing to check my inbox, not rushing to check social media. I actually really try, especially during the week, to give myself minimum 1 hour before I check email, social media, any of that. So allowing myself to just mosey into the day, journaling, doing some meditation, getting out of the house, like that alone is just something that I do 10 times more whenever I am outside of the United States. And then, I might start getting some work done around 8 or 9. I might work for a couple hours and then I take a break. I might go get in the pool. Like whenever I was in Merida, the apartment we were at, they had a pool. Like I would go swimming at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Beautiful.
Love that.
Yeah, and then I might do a little bit more work. I might go live by the pool and like talk to my audience and be like, "Hey, this is an example of the day in the life of a digital nomad." And then, going back, whatever I need to do that day, right? I might go grocery shopping, I might get some laundry done. But it's there's more balance throughout the day, and I'm not in that mindset of like everything has to be done right now. Oh, if I don't get this done today, then I am a failure. It's a peace of mind that I had no idea was possible until I started living abroad.
That's incredible. And I imagine it helps a lot that everyone around you is in the same mindset too. I imagine if you're have that vibe in the US, it would be really hard to hold that because everyone around you is like, "Well, I texted you 5 minutes ago. Why haven't you written back?" Right? It's really hard to hold on to that when everyone around you is on a different vibration essentially, and you need to go to that culture and that environment to truly soak it up.
Kristen, I'm telling you, the amount of people who I have had to almost like threaten, like if you don't stop apologizing to me because you responded to me a few hours later, I'm like, you don't have to explain. Oh my God, I just got so busy. As soon as I get on the phone with my friends, like everything is a scramble. Like, and these are not things that I would have noticed beforehand. But now, like, I have certain people where every time I talk to them, I feel like I'm getting anxiety just by listening to you because it's always everything is rushed. Oh my God, I'm so behind. And people call me and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Just watching some anime. What are you doing?" And it's just like right, this whole list of all of the things. And yeah, like it's sad, but me and my husband, like we kind of have this joke of like every time we come back to the US, like, all right, how long before it just starts to creep back in? How long before the hurry up and wait? How long before we start tying our value to productivity again? Because yeah, like I mean, it's something that it's still hard for me. This is just me being very honest. Like it's still hard whenever I visit the US to not slip back into it because it's such a slippery slope. And if you are not so intentional about it all the time, and like you just said, Kristen, because of the environment, it makes it even more challenging.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Bianca, I've so enjoyed our conversation today. We are wrapping up, and I've got one more question for you. If someone listening today feels like their life doesn't fit them anymore, but they're scared to let it all go, what would you say to them?
Kristen, I would tell them that, listen, the fear is not going to go anywhere. So feel the fear and take the leap anyway. So many of us assume that it's not going to work out. We assume that it's going to be too expensive. We assume that it's going to be too hard. And I'm telling you, like I share this journey online all the time when I talk about how as somebody who grew up black and broke in the United States, not in a culture that was particularly kind and caring for black women, like me being able to live this life that I live now, the reason I even share my story is to empower other people so you can know that your current circumstances, they do not define what's possible for you. If you are someone who wants to see the world, if you want to travel more, if you want to learn how to make money outside of your job, these are all things that are possible for you. It's why I do what I do. And it's even why like I created resources to help people just like you. So if you are serious about this, whether you want to become a US dropout like me, maybe you want to just take more trips in your life, you want to experience what it's like to make money, then I do have some resources that you are more than welcome to tap into. So I do have a digital nomad takeoff toolkit, and it's all things moving abroad, making money online, learning how to travel on a budget. And that's going to be bit.ly, bit.ly US Dropout. So if anyone is interested, you can absolutely tap into that. I even have a special promo code. You can use the promo code Upstream, UPSTREAM, for 20% off. And if you're looking to just get started with something low key, you're like, you know what, Bianca, I'm interested, but I'm not ready yet. You can also grab the freebie that I have for learning more about living abroad and how you can get started. And that is bit.ly. That is bit.ly / my life abroad.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for offering that to our listeners as well. And Bianca, thank you for sharing your story today, honestly, with such honesty and fire. You've reminded us that sometimes the most radical choice is also the most freeing one. And to our listeners, our free spirits out there, if this conversation stirred something in you, share it with a friend who's been feeling stuck or dreaming more. And as always, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep flying upstream. We'll see you next time.